It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show with Phil Mullinax and J.C. Sherbert.
So, how many of you would say you speak English fairly well, but with some difficulty?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You play to win the game.
Now, let's take it away, J.C. and Phil.
It's Inside the Gamecocks, the show. I'm J.C. Sherbert. He's Phil Mullinax. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome in. We've got a pretty good show lined up for you today. Phil,
yes, sir.
First of all, how are you doing?
Doing well this morning. Doing well. Got up early. Got a bunch of coffee in me. Raring to go, buddy.
All right. That's always amazing. Got to hit the coffee pretty hard. And I'm sitting here looking at my cup right now. I'll probably during the break we'll get another one, but not all that tired. Up early myself. Thanks for all of you that want to join us today. We have a poll question up. This is a new feature. It's on thebigspur.com in the show article or digest or whatever, and then you can also get it on Twitter. And I'll go ahead and announce it, and we'll see. If you guys go vote right now, we have some results already and off the tweet deck here. Okay, so the school record for touchdown passes at South Carolina is 29. Nobody's ever thrown 30 in a year. So my question is, will Spencer Rattler top that this year, the over-under at 29.5? So will he break it, or will he tie it, or, not quite get to 30? I was surprised to see that, Phil. I thought Dylan Thompson, the year he set the single-season passing record, maybe had thrown for 30 touchdowns. And I know Jake Bentley was close.
Right. Yeah.
And then the Virginia Bowl game happened. Jake didn't quite get there. But I think that that's an interesting stat, and I think that there's two things about it. Number one, Rattler's got the arm to do it, and I think the talent to do it. I think the Gamecocks have the receiving threats to do it. Number two, one thing I did notice last year with the Gamecocks is Marcus Satterfield. He likes to throw short touchdown passes.
Oh yeah, when you get in close, he's going to toss it. He's not scared about that.
He will dial it up, and everybody's groaning and going, "Well, yeah, you don't run it to a defensive lineman or whatever like Tennessee game." But it wasn't just that game, or a lot of other games where Carolina would get down close and he'd dial it up and it would work. So I think that there's a chance of that happening this year. A lot of people have a lot of big yardage numbers out there for Spencer. Like a lot of people have said when talking about that, if you end up, I think we talked about it yesterday, Phil, if you end up with 4,000 passing yards, that probably means, unless you're a historically good offense, and I'm talking college football historically good,
right,
that your run game isn't going very far. And, so the yardage I'm kind of down on, but, as far as the touchdown passes go, I definitely think with the style of play Carolina has, the tight ends, the backs, the creativity that you can have in the red zone throwing the football, hopefully not out of necessity, because hopefully they'll run a lot in this year. That's one of the things that, I'm looking for and leaning toward maybe the over. I haven't voted in the poll yet. But anyway, curious to see what you guys think right now so far. 66.2% on Twitter say over, and 33.8% have the under. I'm going to go on the Big Spur right now. Slightly more conservative with that group. Obviously, 61.1% say over, 38.89% say under. Spencer Rattler over under 29.5 touchdown passes. Ben Moore from PantherTalk.com of the 24/7 Sports Network. Now, folks, I know that the Georgia State community on 24/7 Sports is not as large as the Gamecock community, obviously. But if you want to know a guy that covers that program as well as anybody, it's Ben. I've known him for years. I dare say, and I'm going to ask him this when he gets on, did he start that site before Georgia State even had football? Because that football program is only like a decade old, and I remember
9 years,
early on in the in some of the discussions about 24/7 Sports, we added him, and he does a great job. We hope to have some more. Kind of keeping it between us. I hope to have some more Georgia State folks on between now and 25 days from now when the season kicks off. But certainly, as much excitement as there is around the Carolina program, Georgia State's pretty doggone excited this year too, Phil. 18 returning starters for the Panthers, and coming off another bowl season with Sean Elliott. And, they've beaten Tennessee and scared the bejesus out of Auburn last year. So I don't think they're coming in intimidated.
No, they're going to get a couple of cracks at some Power 5 schools too early in the season. But you got to think that's going to benefit that team in the long run, just playing against that level of competition. And then when they finally do get into their Sun Belt conference, not that they get to let off the gas, but at least they got some big time experience ahead of them.
Yeah. Sun Belt to me as a league just gets better and better and better for that level. But we'll talk Sun Belt, Georgia State, all that with Ben later. Hour number one, of course, is presented by Cindy Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate, 864-414-5271. As I've said before, we have plenty of satisfied customers with Cindy, and she's a big part of what we do. Married to a diehard Gamecock fan, 35 years, all that good stuff. You'll hear the commercial, but definitely if you're moving to the upstate, if you're leaving the upstate, if you're moving within the upstate, and that's a big region, Cindy can certainly help you. Highly recommend her right now. Don't forget about the Nana's Porch chat box. We will have rolling all day today. We'll get to that in a minute. Also, the iHelp Consulting mailbag inside the Gamecocks at gmail.com or tweet to @TheBigSpurPod. Okay, so I sent Phil some show notes today, some things we want to discuss. And I got the great practice freak out.
I love it, yeah.
now, I wouldn't, I normally, I'm not, things that happen on the bigspur.com and the message boards or what's on the message boards, and things that happen in general Gamecock landom, is that a word? I don't think it's a word, are kind of what we like to address here. But I saw this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the Big Spur yesterday. Apparently, one drill in practice, Phil, the offensive line, I guess, didn't get much of a push. In one clip, Muhammad Kaba comes untouched and blows a play up. And people were kind of freaking out, Oh, my God. And then you hear this thing every year. Every year we're told the offensive line is going to be a strength, and it's not. Well, that's not true. It all roads when you talk about the general Gamecock fans be a little bit, I don't want to say paranoid or PTSD or use a psychological term, because it's college football. It's supposed to be fun and they're still pulling for their team. But anytime you kind of get them rattled a little bit, all roads lead to the Muschamp era, unfortunately, and that's nothing against Will.
Recent. It's just so recent that
Well, and just disappointment after disappointment and all that good stuff. Kind of a letdown after the Spur era, I guess, may be the reason. But it all goes back to this first year when they didn't really have much on offense, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody knew if Deebo Samuel could stay healthy or who he was. They know he had a good game against Clemson in 2015. That's it. Brian Edwards was a freshman. Rico Dowdle was a freshman. Jake Bentley was a freshman. Hayden Hurst was a receiver before that year when he switched to tight end. Casey Crosby, who was pretty good on that team, hadn't even played. Chavis Dawkins, who was good on that team, was a freshman. There were just a lot of unknowns. But you had guys like Zach Bailey, Alan Knott, Corey Helms, back on the O-line, Mason Zandy. And so Muschamp said, I think the offensive line is the strength of the team because, there's a bunch of freshmen otherwise, a bunch of guys you didn't know. Brandon McElwain started a couple of games that game. Perry Orth was a first-time full-time starter for the opener of the opening of the season. Mm-hmm. So, you sort of look at it and it's like, well, I understand why he said that. And obviously that offensive line was not very good. And they lost some guys, and then Wolford came back in because, of course, Sean Elliott went to Georgia State and took the head coaching job. And, Wolford did a really good job in 2017. I think all we said before that year was it should be better, and it was. Even though they lost some guys and had to force Sedarius Hutcherson into play a little bit that year, they held their own. 2018, I thought was a very good offensive line. You can look at the Clemson game tape and see that. Yeah. How many All-Americans did Clemson have on its D-line in 2018? A bunch. And those guys, Dylan Watt, a lot of those guys that are still on the team played very well there. Mm-hmm. I thought 2019 was just okay. but there are problems at quarterback and with that offense all year after Jake went out. And I thought 2020 was pretty doggone good with Mike Bobo. You had some games where they got overwhelmed up front, obviously.
Right.
A&M comes to mind, but you also in pass protection with Colin Hill. But you also had, some record-setting rushing. Last year, obviously, was in that not very good, another first-year situation. 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years, confusion, whiffing on blocks, that kind of thing. I think what they were being asked to do is a little more complex. The second year in the system, I think that's, it should be better. But Phil, we dug up a little bit on the offensive line. And so, we have the stats here. So what are you thinking about the outlook of the O-line? Let's just be real about it. I mean, I'm not going to freak out about one practice or one drill in one practice. It wasn't even a scrimmage or 11 on 11 type, where they go try to score, I mean, I personally think the defense knows sort of by now what's coming, but go ahead.
Well, and especially here in early August, because you can't really tell anything at that point. And one of the plays I saw too was Wanham getting burned on the right side, and just, everybody's in a panic. Oh, it looks bad. But, JC, when it boils down to it, there really is no excuse for this line to not perform like everyone is expecting. You've got 139 combined starts, 5-6-year guys. I mean, it really should be a marked improvement, assuming that, we're taking another step with Satterfield, more familiarity with the scheme. Because for me, JC, what it looked like last year was just these guys look kind of confused, like, where am I supposed to be? Am I in the right spot? But you just got to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I think, like I said, in early August, we haven't seen anything yet. Nobody's whiffed in a, big time game yet. So let's watch them round out the form here. That's why we're practicing right now.
and they're all smart guys. I mean, you look, I think 2 or 3 of them are college graduates, working on master's degrees or whatever. You got academic all SEC guys up and down that unit. I mean, it's not like they're and look, that Ole Miss game, the final game of the Will Muschamp era, which by the way, I think if anybody had asked you what would be the score of Will Muschamp's first game at South Carolina, I think that it was 13-10 against Vandy. I think 60% of the folks out there would have hit on that, right? If you'd have asked what the score of the last game of the Will Muschamp era was at South Carolina, I don't think 59-42 registers.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, 59-42, dude. That's very un-Muschampian score there.
And either way, even for me, man, I'd rather see a 10-13 game than I would 59-42. I'm not, dazzled by points.
Yeah, some people are, some people aren't. I guess it just depends. I'm kind of in the middle, I'm definitely not one of these guys like in the national media where I remember a couple of years ago, like that's when I started understanding that they've just abandoned defense in the Big 12. West Virginia plays Baylor. It's 70-66, and everybody's talking about how it's a classic, and I'm just like, and that was in regulation. I mean, there was no overtime. I mean, LSU and A&M went 74-72 a couple of years ago, but they went like 6 overtime.
Yeah, that was 6, I think. Yeah,
it's crazy. But that's when I first realized they didn't play defense in the Big 12. But I'm kind of in the middle, But getting back to the point, that Ole Miss game, South Carolina. Gosh, Kevin Harris is still running. I think he ran all the way to Jackson, Mississippi, and back that night. The staff, first and foremost, they tried to change quarterbacks and let Helinski come in, and then that didn't work out. So Colin Hill started, and Hill played pretty well. Had a bad mess up there at the end, but that week they adjusted the blocking scheme. It was on the record. Bobo and Muschamp both went on the record, said that, and credit those guys for learning it that fast. So there was precedent there that they could learn something new. Now, last year I was critical of Marcus Satterfield and maybe a little bit of Greg Atkins because I thought this is ridiculous with all these guys coming back. Now, upon further review, perhaps I was a little a little bit hasty. I don't know. I kind of couldn't believe it. And then you get the same old, paranoia, like, oh, we're always told the line's going to be good,
Yeah.
And I got a point on that here in a second. But I started thinking about it really during the offseason. I'm like, man, these guys, I don't care how smart you are. And, it almost works against some of the veterans because whereas that they did have Wolford as their O-line coach 2 of the 3 years, he had the same O-line coach. But it's what Mike Bobo wants you to do blocking scheme wise is a lot different than what Brian McClendon was trying to do blocking scheme wise. And those two things are a lot different than what Marcus Satterfield wants you to do.
Right. And you've got guys who've played for all 3 on this team,
Yeah. So almost, as I started thinking, I was like, maybe that's why Wanamaker and Vershawn Lee and some of the younger linemen got in there and didn't have as much of an issue. Maybe the other guys were just, man, that's a lot to keep up with. I don't care how smart you are when you're trying to train your body to where it's second nature to do things. So I don't know. We'll see. But there's not that excuse is out the window. They've had a year to get everything down and stuff. So that was that. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, and you made a really good point there. 139 combined starts. Every coach in the country wants that. And it's not like these are, you've got some guys that at times individually have played great football here. Dylan Wanamaker, I mentioned last year, was good. Vershawn Lee has been outstanding since he's been here. Jalen Nichols moving to left tackle last year was a difference maker, I think. Number 2, this was just a drill at practice, nothing more, nothing less. And if you think about football in general, early in practice or really during preseason practice till about the 3rd week, the advantage always goes to the defense. You can ask anybody. It's during the Spurrier era, they could hardly get a playoff, right? And you have one of the best play callers of all time back there. Dial them up. Come on, let's dial it up. And then he'd figure it out. And by the time the second or third scrimmage got there, the offense was going up and down the field. And then you start worrying about the defense.
But the defense is bad now. It's like, no.
But Phil, I you're going to take us back a couple of years, not to keep bringing up the Mike Bobo and Bill Muschamp era and that
rehash from 2020, right? Yeah, but
so you're going to take us down memory lane a little bit here, and I want to remind everybody of this.
Yeah, so 2020, you're thinking what in the scrimmages, Colin Hill, Ryan Helinski are just up and down the field all over the defense. And, nobody playing defense, in 2020, let's take that out of the picture. But would you not rather, see a defense perform well in the spring and in the practices as opposed to what we were getting there where the offense looked like it was just going to be lights out and, hanging half 100 on everybody, but only because you're going up against a defense that, couldn't really stop a soul.
That's the thing there, and so you see what happened. So I think the concern would be a lot higher if the defense was getting just lit up right now. Yeah. Now, do I think that they will get lit up at some point? Yes. Happens every preseason. It just people are so thirsty. I hate to use that word thirsty because these days it has a negative connotation, right? It's like a person's thirsty. Everybody's so thirsty for information and enthusiastic and excited about the season, and they're so worried about this, that, or the other. And that's fine. I respect the hell out of that. We wouldn't have a show, and I wouldn't have a website or a collective if it weren't for people sweating things like this. So I can appreciate that. I did see some things that crossed the line, on the message board and on, people laughing and, just people that don't bring anything to the conversation. And they just say, oh, we'll suck again. And we were told and all, I understand the concern though. Oh my goodness. Hopefully it's all right. There's a way you can address it. So I get that, I understand the passion, but you have to put it in perspective. And I think the bigger concern would be if the defense was getting killed. Now I'm going to tell you this too. First scrimmage is coming up. The defense, I would be very surprised and maybe even a little worried about the D, to be honest, if the offense went up and down the field consistently against the South Carolina defense in the first scrimmage.
Yeah, it would be worrisome. It would.
I'm going to tell you right now, I expect the defense to get the best of the offense in the first scrimmage, and that means a team is on schedule. That happens. There's always going to be some things that happen when the season starts, when the games start, that are a bit unexpected. And there will be some guys that you think should play well that don't, and all that good stuff. And some guys that you're not really counting on that end up kicking butt and taking names. So, and that's how it is everywhere, every year. So it is at Alabama. It's how it is at Clemson. So it is at Georgia. Defense is always ahead of the offense. So don't panic, folks. Not after one practice. I agree, though. It's a concern. It's a big concern in 25 days. I expect Georgia State to come after Rattler and to really send pressure and attack the offensive line. That's how they beat Tennessee a couple of years ago. They won 38-30, and their defensive line just mauled what ended up being a really good UT offensive line. They just hadn't gelled yet. I don't know what happened in that game. But the feedback I got from some Georgia State folks were, God, that Tennessee offensive line's terrible. Ended up not being terrible,
Right, yeah. Came around.
They won 6 games in a row, but to finish out the season, including when I jumped off the Muschamp bandwagon, I think was in that trip to Knoxville that year, but that's another story.
Well, it kind of goes back to, I kind of long, JC, for those days where we weren't getting all the video and media out of practice. It was like, because, Josh Pate calls them the casuals, right? Your casual fan is going to see that and start making these rash judgments about what's going on the field here. And even like here on Nana Sports chat line, Clint says they're not even in full pads yet. Yeah, man, we're watching them in pads and shorts. So make your judgments, cautiously at this point, cautiously.
No doubt. Elizabeth says it's post-Muschamp stress disorder.
I like that.
I'd say that, but I don't know. As you get older, you start learning about psychology, and there are people out there really struggling with PTSD. So I hate to even use a sports thing there. All right, we're going to get to more for the Nana Sports chat box line, however you want to say it. I think I'll just call it the chat box.
Chat box. Yeah, I like that.
Also got some questions in from the iHelp Consulting mailbag. First of all, I want to address my hair. All right, so you guys see this mop? It's real. It comes over. It's getting grayer by the minute. Maybe I'll color it. I don't know. Okay, so here we go. This is for you guys. This is for you, Phil. This is for my fiance, who's going to love this. I'm not cutting it till the Gamecocks lose.
Oh, right on.
So there you go. As long as, and look, what are we? August 9th? We still got a dang month before. I'm going to look like Fabio. Well, Fabio's hair, at the end of it. But I'm not cutting it till the Gamecocks. I think that'd be something fun to kind of follow along with.
Nice.
Clint just says it's the Just for Men check box. You can't eat deliciousness from Just for Men. I don't know.
Such a great.
So that's the thing there. But I'm not cutting this thing. It'll be hanging all over all visors. And I will wear a visor for everybody's benefit until the Gamecocks lose a game. So if the Gamecocks are 5-0, I'm planning on going to the Kentucky game with some friends of mine. And if that happens, I will look pretty ugly, pretty bad. Pretty bad by that point.
That's all right. You'll wear it proudly at that point.
But I figured that'd be something fun to do. All that. Continuing on the Nana Sports chat line, and then we got to get a break and get Ben on here to talk Georgia State. Clint says, I'll ask you guys, would you say we have a 50-50 shot with Desmond Umeozulu? I think yes. I think it's a little higher than 50-50 right now. I'll say this, just because there was a falling out with Ohio State does not mean those guys in Columbus can't fix it. You know, I mean, they didn't just fall off the turnip truck up there, you know.
And they're not going to give up. Oh, well, okay, throw your hands up. Let's get out here.
I do think the Gamecocks are making a powerful argument by saying we're genuine, we're honest, we like, you know, it's selling that because that's like shark level recruiting. That's what you do in recruiting. You find, you know, or anything, any kind of competition, you find a weakness and exploit it, or an opening and exploit it, and then compare, contrast, whatever. So yeah, I think that's it. Federline says, I feel like landing Harbor will be a program changing type recruit. 5-star out of the DC area, choosing to come with the Gamecocks. JC, your take. Program changing, I don't know. As far as like changing the trajectory, I do think it will be huge. Well, it'd be the biggest pickup since Jordan Burge.
Right. Yeah.
And what makes it even better is it sends a statement a little bit, because South Carolina's trying to recruit that DC area, especially now with it being kind of touch and go in North Carolina. That's a nice little secondary area, especially with the state numbers down. And you start talking about getting Desmond, Umeozulu, you got Big Tree, you got Sandy, you get Harbor. I mean, that's a big haul.
Yeah.
From up there in that area, and they always have good football in that area. So, you know, program changing, like a Marcus Lattimore, because I thought, you know, Marcus Lattimore, the Gamecocks don't win the East in 2010 and get rolling if it weren't for him. Clowney, obviously, with what happened with him being number one,
right.
What came with that was big. But I do think it would be huge. And the Gamecocks are right there with it and trying the best they can to get him. All right, so Quantrell knows, and then we got to hit a break. We'll have more. Don't worry. From the Nana Sports chat box. JC, in your opinion, which part of the DMV is most important as far as recruiting base, DC, Maryland, or Virginia? I think they all are important. I think there's more of an opportunity right now in DC, Maryland. Virginia, Northern Virginia, you have your Alabamas and Georgias, and the SEC kind of goes there. Now, the SEC will go to DC and Maryland, too. Don't get me wrong. And Carolina's gotten Ja'Kai Moore, Vershawn Lee. They got the one kid, Jesus, that left. But you know, Wolford did a good job. There were some linemen. But I think right now the momentum for Carolina is on the other side of the Potomac with DC and the Maryland area. But they're all important. And I do think the state of Virginia as a whole, not just the DMV, but the Tidewater, Richmond, they've got Carmelo Taylor sitting in Roanoke right now, could be very, very beneficial to a Shane Beamer-led South Carolina program. All right, hour number one's flying by, presented by Cindy Sear-Foss, Coldwell Banker Kane. We'll be back with the guest line presented by Meredith Taylor Golf, McKellarEnterprises.org. If you want to get your swing going on the golf course, give Meredith a holler and she'll catch you out. She sponsors our guest line. Ben Moore from PantherTalk.com coming up after these messages.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're a listener, you know I feel strongly that if you're in the upstate and are in need of real estate services, Cindy Sear-Foss is your go-to person. Sear-Foss of Caldwell Banker Kane can help you with any of your realty needs right there in the upstate of South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Oconee, Pickens, wherever you are. Cindy can help you with that. She's married to a diehard Gamecock fan, has been in the upstate for more than 35 years. Right there in my hometown of Spartanburg, Daniel Morgan Avenue. Contact Cindy, 864-414-5271, or email csearfoss, CSEARFOSS, at cbcaine.com, CBCAINE. That's Cindy Searfoss, a proud sponsor of the Inside the Gamecocks podcast. Check her out. We've already gotten several emails from listeners that are very impressed with her professionalism and her ability to help you with your real estate needs. 864-414-5271, Cindy Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Attention golfers of all ages and skill sets. Former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor will be a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina very, very soon. You want to take advantage of this opportunity. If you're like me and you got to get a whole lot better at golf, or even if you're looking to refine your swing, Meredith is the person you need to go to. She's competing in her final USGA Mid-Amateur Tournament this summer before going full-time into teaching and coaching individuals. If you're in South Carolina, Meredith will be conducting in-person golf lessons at the Country Club of Lexington, half-hour, hour, on course. She'll play 9 or 18 with you. If you're out of state, though, this is really exciting. She'll be conducting virtual lessons. You can send in your swing for her expert analysis. Also, in November, she'll launch an online course with video instruction for all ages and skill levels. Meredith has 20-plus years of knowledge, former SEC golfer, all of that. So contact her on Twitter at MERTaylor, at MERTAYLOR, or go to McKellarEnterprises.org. McKellar spelled MCKELLAR, Enterprises.org. Her email's on the website, so you can connect with her for any other questions. Go get your golf game in order. Take advantage of Meredith Taylor and her services. Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. JC Sherbert here with you. Now joined on the McKellar Enterprises guest line. You just heard the commercial. Get Meredith to help your golf swing. Ben Moore from PantherTalk.com. Ben, I apologize. This is the first time I've ever had you on one of my pods or shows. I've known you for a long, long time, but heck, South Carolina's never played Georgia State in anything, but maybe a baseball game here or there. But certainly glad to see Sean Elliott and the Panthers come over to Columbia for that opener.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me for sure. And I know this is the game that's been circled for a few years, quite honestly. It's one of those things for Sean going back. He has great memory, talks very fondly of his time in Columbia. You have 20 kids on the roster who are from the state of South Carolina, including 5 from Columbia, specifically coming back where they were prep standouts. And you also have storylines of, on the coaching staff as well as we know, and then Jemias Williams who will be getting plenty of carries at running back as a former Gamecock defensive back who switched to offense. So it'll be a lot of fun and 25 days away.
Awesome. Hey, Ben, we've got a little interference there on your Bluetooth there, so you may want to adjust that a little bit if you can. It was I know how technology is. Don't worry about it, bro.
Yeah, that's all right.
We'll get you squared away. But yeah, you mentioned Jemias Williams in there, guys from Columbia. I think Georgia State, and Sean Elliott, of course, has an App State background, and App does a great job coming into South Carolina, evaluating guys that are kind of just under the radar for the bigger schools that recruit the state. Because in South Carolina, if you're in the Sun Belt, Clemson and South Carolina are going to get theirs, and SEC or whoever. But you also have to kind of outfox, and I say outfox because these schools kind of selectively recruit in the state. You got to kind of outfox Virginia Tech or an NC State, and get a kid that may be just as good as the kids they're getting within the state of South Carolina. So can you speak to that kind of recruiting philosophy? I know there's a ton of talent in Georgia, but there's a lot of schools that recruit Georgia. I think South Carolina could be a gold mine.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's one of those scenarios where everyone recruits from Atlanta. So when you're downtown Atlanta, you've got to run into 60, 70 different schools. So ultimately, you have to go into South Carolina and evaluate what you need. And I think even the former staff, guys who have moved on, like Steph, who's going to now Louisville, is from South Carolina, and we're going to prioritize guys, on both sides of the state and really try to attack on the offensive line, defensive line. And they really found some steals, I believe, guys that are going to play significant minutes and significant reps. And even as we've seen, a few guys have moved on and have an opportunity to play at other schools. I'm thinking Stan Pinkney, who's at School for Carolina right now, kid out of the powerhouse program there. Jalen Tate is probably going to play a lot of snaps in the opener and for the Panthers this season. So it should be very interesting to see. But Sean has prioritized South Carolina. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, you mentioned they've had this game circled, so I was going to ask you, about the Jordan Strawn situation. There's no need to run and hide from it, right? That and Elliott, of course, coming back to his home state. That I think he'd get fired up if he was playing the Taliban in checkers. But for it to be South Carolina, I can't imagine his emotional level. And we love Sean. I mean, here on the show. I think the guy can flat out coach. I think he's a great leader of men. But kind of speak to that. Speak to the game that's circled and Strawn and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Jordan Strawn forced the nation, or I think the lead with 10.5 sacks for the Panthers 2 seasons ago, and they really felt confident about all the guys coming back offensively and defensively, and obviously their best players, on defense. And this is the kid again from right there on the border of South Carolina, and a little bit head scratching when he jumped in the transfer portal. There probably was a conversation, I'm sure, with Shane Beamer and Sean Elliott. Would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. So we know that could potentially be needed. But very interested to see what Jordan is going to be able to do and potentially provide that defensive 7. He's seen this team in practice. You've seen this offense basically not really change over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Tweaks there with Trent McKnight taking over the OC role, even the former wide receiver coach. But they're going to run the football. They're going to come at you. Sean Elliott, former offensive line coach, he wants to set the tone pretty easily. And this is the same team that ran over Tennessee 3 years ago, ran over Auburn last year, and intends to do the same here in a couple of weeks.
All right, Ben. Well, hey, man, we really appreciate you joining us today. We're going to have you on again before kickoff. Maybe the week of, so you give a score prediction. I have a gut feeling you may be picking an upset. And look, I don't, right now, South Carolina, according to Vegas, is 11.5-point favorite. I think that's kind of about right, given the players they have coming back at Georgia State, the emotional aspect of the game, and just the fact Georgia State's a good football team, man. It's a really good, to be as young of a team as it is, our program, I think it's tremendous. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. Ben Moore, PantherTalk.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. If you have interest in Georgia State, please go check that out. My subscribers on the Big Spur, go check out his great content. We appreciate it, Ben. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
All right, that was Ben Moore from PantherTalk.com. I have to apologize for the audio on that. I hate it because I've been a guest on a show before where, maybe my cell phone isn't acting right.
Isn't the best
Bluetooth or whatever, and I hate it when they go turn your cell and then you spend the whole segment doing that. So hopefully some of you got it. I can kind of interpret some of it. He's very confident in Georgia State's running game this year. which was eighth in the country last year.
Eighth, and they've got 18 starters returning. I mean, this is a well-established program that Sean Elliott's built down there.
Yeah, definitely. And he mentioned Josh Stepp, who left. They had some interesting Gamecock-related coaching moves last year. Travian Robertson, who we all remember, who, by the way, I'm going to say Travian Robertson is a rising star defensive line coach-wise. If you're a Gamecock and there's ever another D-line opening, you definitely want him. He's a Tulane. He left to go to Tulane, which, living in New Orleans now, in the Crescent City. And then Josh Stepp was interesting. That's Justin Stepp, Carolina's wide receivers coach's twin brother. Okay, so Justin Stepp, his brother Josh, his twin brother, was promoted to OC down there, and then kind of took a U-turn and then went to Louisville as just a tight ends coach. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the Power 5 opportunity with Scott Satterfield up there, who's also an App State dude, and all that. So he left. They lost Brad Glenn to Virginia Tech on that new staff. So they lost some coaches, some good coaches. But I really think if you're the Gamecocks, Phil, this is not a game you can take lightly.
No.
This is a team with athletes. This is a team with a great scheme. This is going to be a team that's tremendously well coached. And this is a team's not going to be scared because of what happened on the Plains last year and what happened in Rocky Top 2 years ago.
No, they're well experienced. They've been in the big environments before, and JC, it speaks to what we were talking about earlier with defense. Needing to come on quick because we are going to be tested. Don't just look at Arkansas and Georgia thinking they're gonna. No, Georgia State's going to come in here with purpose, and they're going to want to run the ball down your throat
and run it and run it and run it. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to continue to repeat this for everybody's purposes, Phil. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out about South Carolina's run defense early. Just because you got 2 top 10 rushing offenses and Arkansas has everybody back on the offensive line. They got good backs. You got KJ Jefferson. Like I said, their backup quarterback, Malik Hornsby, scares the bejesus out of me. And they're a different style with the Briles offense than what Sean runs at Georgia State. And then we know, Georgia doesn't make a lot. There's not a lot of secrets about what Georgia does. They're gonna probably pound you and pound you and pound you to try to get mismatches with those. How many 18 tight ends do they have that are NFL guys this year?
Every one of them getting all SEC honors. Yeah.
It's like a bag of, like a load of freaks at tight end. South Carolina's got a great group of tight ends. Don't get me wrong. And if it weren't for Georgia, South Carolina would probably be top 2 or 3 top 2 maybe number 1 in the league with Bell and Stogner. But
for sure. Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of big, fast dudes at tight end, and I'm not even talking about Bowers, man. So Bowers is the freak, the biggest freak of them all. Mm-hmm. So I just think stopping the run. The first 3 games it's going to tell you a lot, and then you kind of have Charlotte and SC State, and then game number 6 it's going to tell you a lot because Kentucky runs it up Carolina's butt every year they've won.
Every time.
And they stop Carolina's run game. And it's amazing how simple this game is sometimes, Phil. Run the ball, stop the run.
I saw something the other day. Simple, not easy, but it's extremely simple.
Don't forget Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports is coming up next hour. We'll talk about all that with him, about the run defense, and we'll talk about Spencer Rattler. He had a very interesting tweet about Rattler's practice performance the other day. Also is making predictions. I'm saying this, Brad's got a lot of good insight, not only South Carolina, but nationally. And we'll talk about some topics with him in a little bit, but back to the Nana's Porch chat line. My fiance chimes in and says she's going to get out the man bun scrunchies and says, damn. Sorry, honey. It's just how it's doing. I know your sister Kelly said that too. She get the man bun thing.
Yes, she started the man bun talk. Yeah.
Once again, if you're just tuning in, I'm not cutting my hair until the Gamecocks lose a game. Let's hope I'm not going to the Great Clips. I don't even want to call it a barber or a beauty shop. I'm just going to call it Great Clips. I'm just going to go to the. I don't want to be going to the Great Clips Labor Day weekend, folks. I want to be on my porch, watching ball, or in my man cave that I'm building out back, watching ball, happy, content, no meltdown, all that good stuff. So hopefully the hair lasts a while. Back to this, the Desmond Umeozulu, defensive end. And for those of you that don't know, he's an elite 6'6", 240-pound DN. He's that DN all you guys keep talking about. I think sometimes the perception of the Spurrier era is different than the reality, because there were a lot of 6'2.5" guys that made a lot of plays on the defensive line at end during that era. I mean, they were sort of different. Eric Norwood was a little hybrid type. He was right at 6 feet tall. But you still had other guys at end that weren't they didn't look like power forwards or small forwards in basketball, right?
Yeah.
But you did have Cliff Matthews and Devin Taylor and Jadeveon Clowney, and it's hard to kind of, get away from, it's hard to quit that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these long, lean defensive ends, and they've had some since then. Darius Inglis, DJ Wanham was kind of your taller, leaner guy. This is the guy you've all been wanting. This is your Devin Taylor type build, Clowney type build. I'm not saying he's as good as Clowney. But Clint on the Nana Sports chat line comes in and says, just saw Ohio State's 24/7 guy has it as a toss-up between South Carolina and Ohio State. Would be huge to land Desmond. We really need to get as many quality edge guys as possible. Yeah, everybody needs that. But if you look at South Carolina's depth this year, there's a lot of unknowns. Now, I do have a feeling, Clint, Gilbert Edmond and Tyreek Johnson and Terrell Dawkins are going to play pretty well this season. Now, you can't guarantee that. You don't know. I mean, Tyreek's getting a lot of reps with the ones right now, because I think Birch has kind of been I don't want to say he's injured, because I haven't heard that, but he hasn't been in the drills. I think they're holding him for some probably minor reason. Hope says, hey, everyone. We say hello, Hope. Lance says, what up from Fort Jackson? Lance Player.
What's up, player?
What's up, player? Player's going to play. Marion says, hello, everyone from Somerville, South Carolina, home of the Green Wave. Thank you, Marion. And then Ryan says, he points out here on the Nana Sports chat box, 2 former Gamecocks coaching D-line in Louisiana. Travian Robertson is at Tulane, and Dennis Thomas. I know Dennis well, great guy, heck of a coach too, at Louisiana Lafayette, or Louisiana as they call themselves. We're going to be the University of Louisiana. The Cajuns, the Raging Cajun. And LSU, like, you're not ever going to be LSU. Why are you Louisiana? You hear the conversations about that down there in the great Pelican State. Boy, I want some gumbo. Of course, every time, we get here on Nana's porch, we're talking to Nana's porch about things like, for a potential celebration here in about 9 months, about some things like low country boil, oyster roast, shrimp and grits, chicken bog, man, you name it. Nana's porch has got it. That's not even, and that's not even the pulled pork and brisket and all that, the traditional barbecue stuff, which I cannot find in Chicago to save my life. But anyway, all right. So the iHelp Consulting mailbag, that's different too. There's 2 ways to get in the mailbag. One is to tweet at us, tweet to at the Big Spur Pod, and many of you do. Also, Inside the Gamecocks, I was about to say iHelp Consulting, Inside the Gamecocks at gmail.com. First one comes out. Upstate Gamecock says, Merrimack cheese is cool, but the Hamburglar is the best. Loving the show, and I'm now a proud member of Carolina Rise, the 1801 Club. Thank you, Upstate Gamecock. That's awesome of you to be a member of the 1801 Club. Again, CarolinaRise.com, NIL deals. Let's roll. Go ahead and go sign up. It's pretty easy. Sign up, enter some drawings for some prizes. You get the magnet if you're 1801 Club right now. It should be a pretty good deal. And we signed G.G. Jackson at Carolina Rise the other day, so that's pretty awesome. Gamecock Pastor says, on Twitter on the I Help Consulting Mailbag. Hate to bring them up because thinking about the Tigers makes me say non-pastoral things.
We got to keep you on the path, Gamecock Pastor. Just get it out of your head, man.
But how does in-state recruiting help close the gap between Clemson and Carolina? Looking at the Gamecocks having the number 2, 4, and 3 players in state for 2023. That alone is not going to do it. But without it, you really have zero shot, if that makes sense. As far as closing the gap in terms of getting to where Clemson's at, which is one of the highest levels in college football, they're going to have to come down a little bit. South Carolina's going to have to come up, or if South Carolina wants to get to where they're at, it's going to take things like this Desmond Umeozulu guy we talked about. It's going to take Nick Harbor type guys winning recruiting battles in other teams' backyards, like they're doing with Grayson Howard and Jaden Robinson with Florida, that kind of thing. Your Jalen Kilgores of the world, who may criminally be ranked a 3-star, but had that Oklahoma offer, had that Clemson offer, that kind of thing. Winning those frequently, plus the work in the portal, plus South Carolina in general has done a really good job under Muschamp, and now hopefully it continues under Beamer, of getting guys back from junior college that are from the state that may not qualify out of high school, and you get those junior college guys back. That's big too. Because those guys can't go to, Clemson doesn't take junior college athletes. They don't, something about their admissions, and quite frankly, they haven't needed to. However, I do think that I think it's going to take all of the above, and you've hit on something, but it's not like it used to be, where I remember back in Tommy Bowden era and early Dabo, and going back to when Holtz was here and early Spurrier, the two schools kind of duked it out for the top players in the state, and if you won your share of those battles, you can maybe expect to go win. But the best of the best in the state, we're going to places like Florida State, Tennessee, North Carolina, places like that frequently. That doesn't happen as often. So I think both schools keeping guys in state helps. But Clemson's had kind of just a big head start with all the talent they've gotten and stuff. And as you can see, by looking at their offense, which is they're going to probably go as far as that offense will take them this year. They're not quite the same. They don't have a guy like T. Higgins that's proven, or a Mike Williams, or some of those slot guys. They really missed a slot receiver last year. They got good tight ends, and I think they have talent at receiver. And I think the two in-state kids they got last year could be phenomenal for them. And of course, quarterback is a kind of a steady until he gets back to the level they think he can. I would not put DJ even close to Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson. So even with the way they recruit, you see that, a program can develop holes. That's why I think some of our friends out there in the national media that just kind of look at like a Texas A&M and look at all these 5-star guys they got and then rank them in the top 10 after they've lost half their starters. I think it's nonsense. I don't want to say that about Georgia just yet, but, ranking Georgia 3rd just because they have high recruiting classes and when they've lost freaky talent on defense could be nonsense. I think we need a recording field that goes nonsense.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Just playing nonsense. By the way, Upstate Gamecock, back to Mayor McCheese. I kind of glossed over this, but nonsense as far as the Hamburglar being better than Mayor McCheese, man. Mayor McCheese would have the Hamburglar put in jail.
Well, and on the recruiting front too, JC, it was like that national footprint that Clemson is putting out right now, it will dry up a lot quicker if that program starts to slip than an in-state footprint would. It's like these kids in the state know these schools, their heart is in it. But when you're going out to California and places like that, they just want to come play for a big time program. If your program starts slipping big time, then you're going to need to look home.
Yeah, exactly. And like, because people ask me, they're like, well, what happens if Clemson can't compete NIL wise? And then, of course, Clemson's got $4.5 million, I think, in a collective right
Yeah,
now.
they can. Yeah, they can.
I wish Carolina Ross had that, but how are they going to compete? They don't have the money, blah 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 blah, and that's fine. And my point was this: sometimes when you really dig into it, Phil, and you look at how they won their first national championship and how they played for their first, not their first. Their second, because they won one in 1981. I forget. I grew up listening. I grew up hearing that over and over and over again. So that should be ingrained in my brain, but it's not. But the first one under Dabo, the first one of this era, right? You look at the two deep for those teams, 2015, 2016. Yes, Watson was amazing. But Mike Williams was a low 4-star kid out of South Carolina. So was Ben Boulware. They had starters that were 3-star guys out of South Carolina. They found Jordan Leggett in the beautiful beach town of Navarre, Florida. If you ever been to Navarre, it's great. 3-star guy that FSU and everybody else didn't want. Their big tight end that year. The 5-stars on that team, like Ray McLeod and Deion Kane, were good, but they weren't as good as Williams. And then the ultimate evaluation, Hunter Renfrow, no-star quarterback from Sauk City in Myrtle Beach. So you look at what Clemson put together by recruiting the state, and this is where they sort of, for lack of a better term, punked the former South Carolina staff. While the former South Carolina staff was sitting around, just chilling. And I'm not saying all of them, because I had friends on that staff that worked their ass off, to try to keep it going. They were highly frustrated. But while everybody's sitting there going 5 in a row, and we didn't really want the kid from Orangeburg or Aiken that both started, into the NFL, or we don't want that kid. Meanwhile, Brent Venables is taking these guys from the state and turning them into players, many of whom played pro ball. Now that 2018 team, the second one they won, that was a different animal. That was an example of, and I talk about this many times, about going into other people's backyards and getting elite talent. T. Higgins probably would have been at Tennessee. At Tennessee, not been where they were, Clemson where they were. Same with Amari Rogers. Travis Etienne probably does not turn down LSU unless Clemson's rolling at the time, right?
Right.
Boy, he was special, right? Now he was another low 4-star kid, but they went and got him. Trevor Lawrence from Northwest Georgia. Does he really go to Clemson if they're sitting there struggling to get the Gator Bowl? No. He went and, maybe he'd have been at Georgia or Tennessee, in another life. The kids they get out of Florida that normally would have gone to the Gators or the Noles or Miami. That's good. So when you start going on other people's turf and plucking quality players, that's a sign you're really going. Now, South Carolina's doing that a little bit with the kids in Florida they've got now. They're not quite 5-star guys, right? But you start kind of doing that, and you're that's when you know that, hey, your recruiting's taken a next step. But when Clemson initially did it, they did it with in-state guys, and so the point of all that was people were like, well, what if Clemson goes backward? Well, all they got to do is revert to their previous plan and go make great evaluations, build a roster, sign a 5-star quarterback, put everything you got into that, and away you go. I mean, I don't know. I think the formula up there is flexible, and I don't know that it's always, especially in the league they're in, Phil. Right. I don't know that it's always about loading up on 5-star guys, and all that. So that's the deal with Clemson. And thank you, Gamecock Pastor. Okay, we have more from the iHelp Consulting mailbag. Some of you have emailed in. That's insidethegamecocks@gmail.com. Hour number 2, presented by the Burgess team at RE/MAX at the Lake, is coming up. We have Brad Crawford, bottom of the hour, to close us out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Brad from 24/7 Sports CBS. He's been hot. I don't want to use the term hot take, because that sometimes gets negative, but he's been giving takes all over the place. And when we get back, I got to tell you about Heritage Digital. All right, take us to break, Phil. If you're a listener, I feel strongly that if you're in the upstate and are in need of real estate services, Cindy Searfoss is your go-to person. Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane can help you with any of your realty needs right there in the upstate of South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Oconee, Pickens, wherever you are. Cindy can help you with that. She's married to a diehard Gamecock fan, has been in the upstate for more than 35 years. Right there in my hometown of Spartanburg, Daniel Morgan Avenue. Contact Cindy, 864-414-5271, or email csearfoss, CSEARFOSS, at cbcaine.com, CBCAINE. That's Cindy Searfoss, a proud sponsor of the Inside the Gamecocks podcast. Check her out. We've already gotten several emails from listeners that are very impressed with her professionalism and her ability to help you with your real estate needs. 864-414-5271, Cindy Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Let's say you need catering, you need a food truck, you just need to get some delicious food to feed some people. Nana's Porch is the place for you. I've known Chris, the owner, for years now. They helped with the Big Spur Golf Tournament, catering it. It was delicious. I highly encourage you to go visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com right now to take a look at their services, their menu items, everything you may need for your event, the professionalism, the food, the taste. It's unrivaled in this space. 336-259-7550 is the phone number. Or again, go to nanasporch.com. We talk about them all the time. They sponsor the chat line here on the podcast, but wanted to tell you about it right here, straight from JC. Tell them JC sent you, and please support this Gamecock-owned and operated business. Also a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Are we back?
Yeah, we are back.
Sweet. Got to tell you this, folks. Got to talk a little bit about my boys at Heritage Digital. Got a call from Heritage Digital today, and apparently they've redone their phone lines. So we've had the wrong phone line in there, and I need to ask you, Phil. Do you know what sucks?
What is that?
Is when you're sick and tired of your business computer.
That's right. Takes nothing worse.
Takes forever to call you back, respond to your request, paying them good money to keep things working, but you're still having constant problems, slowness, and other recurring issues. Nothing worse than terrible internet. When you're trying to do business in an office space, it's awful. And then, you're always concerned, are you backing up and securing the network? Cybersecurity is a huge deal these days if you listen to the news. And all of that. Well, we got a solution for you. It's a turnkey solution. It's one low monthly fee, and Heritage Digital will take care of you. So give my man Matt a call. We do have a satisfied customer out there that got with Matt and solved his IT problems. Matt's number, 843-699-1001. They'll perform a no-cost IT assessment. Make sure everything's working correctly all the time. One low monthly fee. They have clients from South Carolina to California, so Heritage Digital has you covered. You guys know who are longtime listeners do know about Heritage Digital because their ad led off the podcast for like 100 episodes. But I did get a testimonial on Heritage the other day, and like I said, so go to iHelp Consulting and get a see if you're wasting money, and then go to Heritage, and they can help you get great IT service. So, you listen to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, or the podcast enough, and you're going to fix your business, right? So that's pretty good. So anyway, hour number 2 brought to you by the Burgesson team at Remax at the Lake. Going to check in on the poll, and you can answer. You can vote in the poll on Twitter at the Big Spur Pod, or you can go to thebigspur.com. There's a free article that says today on the show, and it's how many touchdown passes will Spencer Rattler throw this season for the Gamecocks. It's an over-under. Nobody in the history of the program has thrown for 30. Steve Tannehill has that record with 29 in a season. Like I said, Jake came close in 2018. And so far, Phil, there's a lot of faith. 68.2% say over.
I'm taking optimistically, I'm going the under on this one just because I feel like if you're throwing 30, then something might be wrong.
Yeah, it may be. I say this because of, like I said, because Marcus Satterfield, he's not afraid to throw it inside the 10. And I remember last year, Eastern Illinois, Carolina threw for 4 touchdowns in the first half. So everybody seems to be going over. On Twitter, I'm going to go to the Big Spur and see what the deal is here. There we go. The show, pull that up there. And the poll there, a little more conservative, still pacing about 60%, 61.1, 44 say over, 28 say under in the poll on the Big Spur. So still probably about a 65-35 toward the over on that. So I just thought it was interesting. I guess it got lost on me. Nobody's ever thrown for 30 touchdowns in a season at South Carolina. But, I think that combined, the Gamecocks threw for 25 last year.
And it's not completely unrealistic when you look at it. If you're playing, a 13-game schedule, let's assume there's going to be at least one postseason game, then it's only a little over 2 per game, which is not crazy.
Yeah,
and we'd all like to see that, of course.
And so it's a little weird. I don't know that they hadn't done that, but I'm sorry, 22 touchdowns last year. So a little on the low end of things, but kind of a bigger number than you'd think. Heck, Jason Brown had 8 touchdown passes last year, and Luke Doty had 5, and Zeb Nolan had 7. Kai Kroger had 1 at Tennessee. Yeah. And then Joyner had the 1 in the bowl. Whereas rushing touchdowns last year, the Gamecocks had a paltry 9.
Niner. That's the one I want to see go up. That's the one.
Yeah, that has to change. That definitely has to change. So thanks for participating in the poll questions. We've got more on the Nana Sports chat line here. Elizabeth says, and she does this every single time we talk about a quarterback, I want to know if the ball sounds different coming out of Rattler's hands like it did with Helinski. I haven't listened. Actually, at the Army Bowl that year, Rattler was with Helinski. So I'll have to ask Keith and some of the other folks that were out there if they listened to the ball coming out of Rattler's hands. But man, I'll tell you this: I saw a clip from practice the other day. I think it was just a 9 route. I think it was to Amarian Brown. I'm not sure. Boy, it was a beautiful pass. Man.
Oh, I caught that too. It was like, against air, it looks great.
Yeah, there was no coverage. He was wide ass open, but it was unbelievable. Jeffrey says, "Go Cox," and Marion says, "Like a 747." All right, that's good. Good deal there. Appreciate you tuning in, Marion. All right, we're gonna get to the iHelp Consulting Mailbag Part 2. Inside the Gamecocks at gmail.com is the email address if you want to get in like that. And like I said, we had a show outlined today, Phil, and I'm going to save broadcast bonanza and we'll talk with Brad a little bit about it. That sneaky Big Ten, I tell you what, they're very sneaky up in my part-time neck of the woods. Actually, hopefully not too much longer, but the Big Ten that over in Rosemont, Illinois, near the casino, it looks like they're going to cut a pretty interesting, maybe even an unprecedented looking television deal. Also going to talk about recruiting here in a little bit about Xavier McLeod and some other guys, some real brief recruiting news today. So inside the Gamecocks at gmail.com, the I Help Consulting mailbag rolls on, and I'll read one, Phil, then you read one, and then
that'll work.
Yeah, it's like when Guns N' Roses does Knocking on Heaven's Door. Axel's like, I'll sing one, and you sing one, and then we'll all sing. Or maybe Rocky IV. Like, if we get along and I get along and then we all get along and we love each other. Adrian. All right, so Mike goes. This is hilarious. New show. JC and Phil love the new show, but when you mentioned you might take random phone calls from fans, I almost wrecked my van. For the love of everything Gamecock and holy, please don't do that. Listen to any Carolina calls, and it becomes an awkward intro to talk show process every week. Even someone who trains his callers to be stylistic, like Jim Rome, has a low percentage of entertaining callers. I take it you're not a Feinbaum fan, Mike.
I was going to say, what about Paul?
Paul? Nick Saban is a better man than you. Good Lord.
Even though I went to Tennessee.
Instead, just keep in mind your cool guests on the show. You know a ton of talented people who are informative and entertaining that we like. Mike Morgan and Keith Allsup, two really good friends of mine, are two prime examples. I'm saying two friends of mine. I don't know if Mike, this Mike knows Mike and Keith. Of course, the team at the Big Spur and all the team affiliates for game matchups would be good to hear as well. Pulling questions and comments from the live chat feed is great, and the mailbag gives all of us a chance to contribute. That's the idea, and I'm glad you said that, Mike. I love interactive shows, but I'm kind of with you in that when you start doing call-ins, it gets weird. And Carolina calls, I'll just be honest, man. Number one, the person who thought he was hilarious by calling in and saying something to Will Muschamp about wearing a ski mask or stealing money or something, and then said the same thing to Frank Martin. I think that's ridiculously clownish and stupid.
I think he's shown up in our chat box a time or two.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean that I don't like that. I mean, these coaches. I mean, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, they're well compensated for it, but they're nice enough to take your call. I mean, and they don't have to. I have to. We have to interact with you guys, right? That's our job. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off the highway on that one. But it's awkward because it's like, all right, Todd. He's like, all right, let's go to Peter in Somerville. Take it away, Peter. And then you hear an echo.
Hello? Hello? Am I on?
Go ahead, Peter. You're on Carolina Calls with Shane Bieber. And it's like, Coach, yeah, it's just, I just want to say, how y'all doing tonight? Calls. I mean, all right, so I don't want to do a whole, me and Phil may do a whole little skit and record it or something. But I get you. It's very awkward and it's tough. And, those folks that call that show, they're not, I mean, and some of them have great questions, many of them do not. Many of them just, some of them are like trolls. I mean, so I don't know. I kind of wish they wouldn't maybe take calls from the audience,
Yeah, because they are in a bar.
Yeah, they're live. Why don't we get a sideline reporter or get somebody to walk around and like a talk show and talk to people? I mean, I'd do that if I was live at a bar. I'd let the people come and talk. We could talk to whoever. Talk to my dog here. But that's just kind of. You're right. And I think if we ever went with anything call-in wise, we would do maybe like I remember Pac-Man when they called it Bart Packer in Charlotte had the whiner line, and people just call in and leave angry voicemails. because we can kind of manage that and kind of throw away the crap. But I think it would be absolutely hilarious. After wins and losses, we could come in Monday 145 voicemails. It's like, oh God, we're gonna have to sift through that. I'll tell you that right now. All right, so Mike does have a football question. Finally, my question is, how should our defense stack up in the SEC at stopping the run? And should we be worried about inexperienced kickers and a hurt punter? Thanks again for a great show, Mike. Thanks, Mike. I'm to the point kind of like in my career where I don't really like to deal in absolutes when it comes to like, how are they going to stack up against the SEC? I don't know. And nobody does. If they're serious, you can guess. You can say the personnel's better. This guy's healthy. They're a year older, second year in the scheme, all that. These guys individually can do this, that, and the other, but you just don't know. I mean, especially with the three teams they're playing to start off with. Like I said, we're going to find out. I do think the speed and athleticism at linebacker is better, like Sherrod Green. And really, I think yesterday, Green and Kaba were the two linebackers. That's a lot of speed and athleticism. Those of you that don't think South Carolina ever gets a player out of North Carolina, I'll remind you, those two are from North Carolina. Kaba and Green. But I like that combo. I think it's Brad Johnson. I think he's going to have a pretty good year too. So you look at it, that should be better. Linebacker should be better. Zach Pickens should play more consistently. I love Jabari Ellis, but I also really like I loved how Boogie Huntley made plays toward the end of last year, and he's kind of at that other D-line spot.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he plays for sure.
Yeah, I think Devontae Reed can replace Jalen Foster fine in the run game. Jalen played really good against the run last year. So on paper, they should be good. But, I mean, hell, and they may be in the first three games, they may give up 200 yards a game just because those are three really good rushing teams. I mean, it's tough. And then should you be worried about an inexperienced kicker and a hurt punter? Hurt punter, absolutely. Because Kai Kroger was freshman all-SEC, was pretty solid last year. He's the holder and saved several field goals, getting it down quickly on errant snaps. So you lose him in two facets. He can throw the ball too, if we remember. Inexperienced kicker, they're not really inexperienced. They're just, Mitch Jeter was behind Parker White last year. But if you watch him kick, he's got a very strong leg, very accurate, that kind of thing. And then they got the Luckhurst kid that kicked at Arizona State that transferred in, Jack Luckhurst. If you remember Mick Luckhurst, he used to play for the Falcons. I think this is his son. So a kicking family there. We all, those of us that were hardcore Falcons, I'm not anymore. I'm a fan, but I don't follow every game and stuff with the Atlanta Falcons, but, Mick Luckhurst, that's a name from my childhood. So, I think place kicker, they're going to be fine because if one doesn't work out, you can go to plan B and not really skip a beat. Punter, strong leg, experienced kicker, great holder, and a lefty. Kai Kroger would be a miss, even if the person that replaces him is decent. You still lose a lot with that guy because he's kind of a special team star, actually from near Chicago, from where I reside. He's on the north end. I'm in the southwest burbs. So, but he's from Lake Forest. So that's the deal there. Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Brad Crawford coming up here pretty soon. We continue with the iHelp Consulting mailbag. Take it away, Phil.
All right, so JC Noah hit us up and says, JC and Phil, I know he's far more than just a tight end, but is Jaheim Bell the best tight end in the conference this year? I think he can be, but the two UGA tight ends could also contend for that spot. Enjoying the show, despite the Dave Doran slander. Yeah, I hear you, Noah. Hey, we didn't say anything bad about Dave yet.
Not yet. This is a big year for Dave Doran, man. They're number 13 in the country. I'm like,
a lot of preseason hype up there. A lot of preseason.
Y'all will be shocked. I've just never been a fan of his. Never thought he was that good. Thought he made terrible decisions. coaching staff wise at times. Maybe I'm stupid and wrong. And then the Dabo laptop thing, I thought that's, everybody I know that's listening to us probably hates Dabo Swinney. That's one time I was like, dude, this guy's a clown. Come on. You lost a close game. You're frustrated. Should have beaten Clemson twice in a row. You didn't because you're not a good coach.
There it is, Noah.
And so, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, and talking about tight end, because look, if you're talking about postseason awards, all SEC, things like that, they're going to classify Bell as a tight end, just like they did Kyle Pitts from Florida a couple of years ago. But my hope is, that they use Jaheim in a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah.
And the more plays Jaheim makes and the more touches Jaheim gets, I think the more plays he will make. And we keep talking about guys, and then there's one football. So how many touches and all that. I think he could get in the mix. It's going to be awfully hard if Bowers from Georgia continues to play like he did last year. If there's no sophomore slump there, that dude's a shoe-in All-American.
Oh, yeah.
No question. But Jaheim's very unique and a very dynamic, what you call a dynamic player. So I do believe that, when all is said and done, he's got a shot. So does Austin Stogner, for that matter. Don't forget about Stogner.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody kind of forgets about him. That dude sort of built like some of those old tall 6'7" tight ends Notre Dame had that could run, the Kyle Rudolph types. That's another weapon, and you're sitting there going, gosh, glad Spencer Rattler's accurate with the ball, because you had to distribute it with some of these guys. So thanks so much, Noah. Xavier says, and he's listening from Wenatchee, Washington. Wow.
Yeah.
Wenatchee. Love the new show. Run a route out of town, so it gives me something to listen to on the road in Wenatchee, Washington. My question is, it's been reported Greg Atkins was out a lot last season due to health problems. Do you think that had to do with the inconsistent line play, or do you still just think it was too complicated? It seemed to be better for the bowl game when he had a whole month to be there. Your thoughts? I think it was both. I mean, and I know Atkins did have some situations where, he had some health scares and stuff like that. What impresses me about that is the guy. Look at the way the guy's recruiting. I mean, still, even with us, he's a hell of one of the on paper could be the best offensive line class in school history or in the modern recruiting era. Will it ultimately be that way? I don't know. But he's better now, healthy now. I think too, and I want to be clear, they did not sign his son Nate out of the transfer portal just because, Greg needs his son here because he's got this. Nate's a hell of a player. And will help this team too, blocking wise, catching the ball, whatever. He's gonna really be good. Although again, there's a lot of names, right now. But I do think though that, you look at him, his family was kind of spread apart. When the guy got the job, he was talking about his family. He got emotional. It's obvious it means a lot to him. I think anytime you're an adult human being and you're kind of away from your family working and you have some sort of health scare, that can get awfully lonely. No matter if you're part of a greater football family or not. So was Greg Atkins distracted and did that affect the offensive line? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's something to point to, but I do know that this year he's healthier, which means he's probably more comfortable, also learning the system. Everybody kind of had to learn it. I don't think they were all on the same page a lot last year. I think that has been an emphasis from the head coach is to get on the same page on that side of the ball, sort of like the defense does, and go from there. So I do think that, I do think Greg Atkins is in line to have a better season. He's a great guy, man. I don't know him as well as I know some others, but my few interactions with him and what I know about him from having been in this business for a long time, and he's, been a coach for a long time, tremendous human being, Also, big track record offensive line, coaching wise and recruiting wise. So obviously, like I said at the top of the show, it's a big year for his group. I mean, they have to get better. I think it's unrealistic against the team South Carolina plays every single season and the defensive line talent on those teams every single season to think that an O-line is going to go out there and roll up and down the field like the Nebraska Cornhuskers of the 1990s. I mean, that's not going to happen, dude. But anytime there's going to be sacks, there's going to be tackles for loss, there's going to be games where you struggle to run the ball initially and pass. It's just going to happen. It's inevitable, but I do think improvement can happen. I do think they can get, in my opinion, and I don't know assignment wise and all that, how they can, what needs to be done in terms of getting there. But I think just talent wise, experience wise, performance wise, they could be a lot like that 2018 group, which if you think about that offensive line that year, a lot of the problems weren't on that group. They protected well. The run blocking was fairly solid at times. And a lot of those guys that were on that team are still on the team, man. It's like you can't get rid of some of these guys. They're back for more. They love Carolina football. So
yeah, and another year in the same system is going to go a long way. I just feel that in my gut, and I think it speaks to how well they did perform in the bowl game, JC, as to where some more familiarity is going to benefit this group. So they should come along.
They did, and they got Kevin Harris, sent him out on a good note. I mean, he looked like the Kevin Harris from 2020 in that game. Caleb McDowell, Juju McDowell, 5 carries, 52 yards, and a big touchdown. DeCarry Joyner carrying it mostly from the quarterback position, 10 carries, 64 yards. They protected pretty well. I mean, it was a nice performance by these guys, and I hope they can continue that momentum because I think this, Phil, and we talked to Ben Moore earlier from PantherTalk.com, and again, I apologize for the audio there. And it's not Ben's fault either, because when you're doing a call like that, you can't hear yourself. So he didn't know. But I think we made out most of what he was saying. I do think one thing South Carolina can do to kind of take the attack to Georgia State is get behind the line and establish the run in that football game.
Yeah, give it right back to them.
Because what I think that Georgia State's hoping is, Carolina drops back and they all, they come after Rattler and confuse the Gamecocks up front and all that good stuff. And try to put pressure on him, force some turnovers. And then if Carolina, God forbid, has trouble stopping Georgia State's offense on the ground, that can lead to an upset, unfortunately. So I think the offensive line right out of the gate could have a tremendous impact on a win or a loss in that game, because you get those big guys Carolina's got up front leaning on the Georgia State D-line, and it becomes a mono smash mouth type of deal. I'll tell you this, right? South Carolina's got a big advantage with their backs, ability to run the ball, and that also keeps the Georgia State offense off the field. All right, we are going to go to break. Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports is coming back in. Breaking news, we had are coming in. Breaking news, the ESPN did announce officially just now, Phil, they've withdrawn from the Big Ten media rights debacle or negotiation. So we'll talk to Brad about that, about the Gamecocks, about Rattler, right after these messages.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Attention golfers of all ages and skill sets. Former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor will be a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina very, very soon. You want to take advantage of this opportunity. If you're like me and you got to get a whole lot better at golf, or even if you're looking to refine your swing, Meredith is the person you need to go to. She's competing in her final USGA mid-amateur tournament this summer before going full-time into teaching and coaching individuals. If you're in South Carolina, Meredith will be conducting in-person golf lessons at the Country Club of Lexington, half-hour, hour, on course. She'll play 9 or 18 with you. If you're out of state, though, this is really exciting. She'll be conducting virtual lessons. You can send in your swing for her expert analysis. Also, in November, she'll launch an online course with video instruction for all ages and skill levels. Meredith has 20-plus years of knowledge, former SEC golfer, all of that. So contact her on Twitter at MerTaylor, at MERTAYLOR, or go to McKellarEnterprises.org. McKellar spelled MCKELLAR, Enterprises.org. Her email's on the website, so you can connect with her for any other questions. Go get your golf game in order. Take advantage of Meredith Taylor and her services.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Let's say you need catering, you need a food truck, you just need to get some delicious food to feed some people. Nana's Porch is the place for you. I've known Chris, the owner, for years now. They helped with the Big Spur Golf Tournament, catering it. It was delicious. I highly encourage you to go visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com right now to take a look at their services, their menu items, everything you may need for your event, the professionalism, the food, the taste. It's unrivaled in this space. 336-259-7550 is the phone number. Or again, go to nanasporch.com. We talk about them all the time. They sponsor the chat line here on the podcast, but wanted to tell you about it right here, straight from JC. Tell them JC sent you, and please support this Gamecock-owned and operated business. Also a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Are we back?
We are back.
All right, we're back, and we're joined by Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports, CBS Interactive. How are things going, Brad? How is Myrtle Beach?
Thanks for having me, fellas. It's partly cloudy here. My girls are on the beach right now. I'm stuck at my parents' beach house. Talking about Gamecock football, so I'm.
Hey, boy, it's a labor of love, and I know I went around this time last year. I think I was back by now, but I was in Myrtle, and man, it rained like 4 out of the 7 days, and unfortunately, the couple we were with now going through a nasty divorce, so maybe that was like a foreshadowing. Yeah. What do you call that? So, yeah. All right. So first and foremost, I want to give you guys an update on the poll question and ask Brad. Okay. So nobody in the history of South Carolina football, and I guess this was lost on me, has ever gone for more than like 30 or more touchdown passes in a season. So The record's 29, Steve Tannehill. All right. So we'll set an over-under for Rattler, 29.5. Yes or no, and about 65% of our responders, we got a couple of hundred people that have responded, say yes. What say you, Brad?
So that's about 2.5 touchdown passes per game for Rattler, and what I expect to be a much improved passing game in Columbia. I think JC this summer, might have been 2 months ago or so, the over-under for me was around 3,000 yards passing and 28.5 touchdowns. So right on you guys' number as well. I think if Spencer can get to maybe 28, 29 touchdown passes and he hits that 3,000 yards, I think the rest of that offense, the running game especially, is going to make South Carolina into a possible, 8-4, 9-3 type ceiling team.
Now you had a tweet. It's about a day ago. It was a day ago. You had heard some stuff about Rattler, some good stuff. Why don't you tell the folks? Because some of our folks aren't necessarily on Twitter. They're on Twitter and not. So they may not have seen the tweet. So just pass along that outstanding piece of information.
Yeah, one guy that's been around the program a long time, a source of mine. He told me over the weekend Brad, this guy puts the ball in places that we've never seen before. We being, guys who watch practice and are out there on the proving grounds. This is a big improvement, really the biggest improvement arguably in program history at the quarterback spot. Now you have a guy in Spencer Rattler, former 5-star, who can throw receivers open. He puts the ball in a place where this litany of playmakers for the Gamecocks can make plays after the catch. It's been a while, JC, the last couple of years, really. We've kind of seen quarterbacks at times for South Carolina really stunt this offense's growth, because of limited ability relating to arm strength or accuracy, avoiding pressure. And Spencer really checks those 3 boxes as a darn good player. So I think on third down especially, and, hitting guys on those crossers across the middle, Gamecocks are going to really see immediate dividends there.
Yeah, I like the chemistry he has on third down with Stogner already. You throw Bell in there. You've got a guy like Corey Rucker and Josh Van Both are really good route runners. Oh, yeah, those crossing routes probably be a little more success this year than last, I would think, right? All right, Phil, so you got one there for old Brad?
Yeah, let's see, Brad. I was checking out some Twitter stuff this morning, and you were picking some upsets. And, you had some interesting picks. Like the Tennessee-Georgia game was one you were watching out for. I think, Arkansas-Mississippi State was another one. And Mississippi State's an intriguing team for me this year. You were talking about, touchdown passes. Just for comparison, they put up 37 last year. So are they going to keep that rolling? Is it going to just keep getting stronger?
Offense, baby. I mean, that Mike Leach scheme, man, produces no matter who's at quarterback. Oh, yeah. He's had walk-ons. He's had 4-stars. All of them throw 35-plus touchdown passes. But, yeah, Mississippi State's a pretty interesting team in the SEC West. I think I took the Bulldogs to finish 5th in that division at SEC Media Days last month. But, 17 starters back. We know Starkville's a tough place to play no matter if you're a ranked team or not. And, Mississippi State plays Texas A&M at home. That's one of my upset picks. But, getting back to that first one you mentioned, Alabama at Arkansas, that's a huge potential upset in college football against a Razorbacks team that I've got finishing 2nd in that division.
That bullish on Arkansas. Let me ask you about Arkansas's defense. I know they've got Bumper Poole, who's on the all-name team, but also is a heck of a player. And then they brought in, I think, the Sanders kid from Alabama. They've got Catalan back. I've always loved Barry Odom as a D coordinator. I didn't mind him as a head coach. I just kind of thought he was about as exciting as sandpaper. But just personality-wise and all that. But what do you make specifically of the Arkansas defense, and what gives you faith that they're going to be able to play? I don't know that they were a great defense last year, but they were real tough and hard-nosed. And under Odom, they've been sort of good at forcing turnovers and things like that. What do you think about Arkansas on that side of the ball?
Yeah. Speaking with Sam Pittman, JC, he's pretty confident in both corners, really the cornerback spot being much improved. Obviously, Drew Sanders, former 5-star signee at Bama, he's a guy who played behind Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Not many guys are going to start over those two in Tuscaloosa. So I think he's an immediate impact player at outside linebacker. I know Arkansas is going to line him up in that stance, off the edge and let him kind of get after the quarterback. But Arkansas is a team, as you mentioned, Barry Odom's 3.35 really does confuse some top flight quarterbacks every now and then. I saw Matt Corral 2 years ago, went to Fayetteville and threw 5 picks, and he's a 3rd-round pick and one of the Ole Miss record setters from a year ago. So I think that's a very tough game for South Carolina in week 2. And I posed the question last week on Twitter, to Gamecock fans, which game is the more likely win? At Arkansas week 2 or week 3 home against Georgia? And, a overwhelming majority chose the Arkansas game, but I tend to lean the other way. I think Georgia at home, Gamecocks could catch them in a better light because of the, 9 new starters on defense and the fact that that's Georgia's first true road game of the season.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. In fact, I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day that he's kind of more of he doesn't follow it like we all do, but he knows the ebbs and flows of Gamecockdom, I guess, and are following this program. And he's like, he'll probably lose to Arkansas and then come back and beat Georgia. That's just how it goes. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably how it goes sometimes, too, as well. Brad, so and I know you cover college football on a national level. So today, the news broke in the last couple of days, actually, that the Big Ten TV deal is almost done. ESPN just announced they're pulling out. It's going to be CBS, NBC, Fox. I mean, what do you make of that? And are we heading toward an NFL style of, I guess, broadcasting rights and things like that?
And windows and blackouts and all that stuff.
Well, multiple networks doing the championship and playoff. I mean, is that? I mean, that seems to me with 3 broadcast networks lining up behind the Big Ten, that's where we're heading.
I was going to say what this means is really several networks now are going to share Big Ten coverage, which that's one of 2 super leagues now in college football, SEC being the other. Fox, I know, holds a great deal of these rights, maybe 50%, but there's a chance, reports indicate that CBS is going to probably grab that 3:30 window for Big Ten. And then a network like NBC is going to have that primetime slot. So, you could see Fox have that high noon kickoff, Big Ten game of the week, CBS getting the afternoon slot, and NBC at night. So, the Big Ten is going to certainly have its share of major networks. And I think the bigger question here is, how does that affect ESPN's College Game Day? So often you see those guys go to Columbus or Ann Arbor or Madison. Does ESPN now slightly ignore the Big Ten, or are we going to see poll rankings change in that light? So I think it'll be interesting because the last 10 years or so, JC, CBS has kind of been the SEC giant, and now it's going to approach into Big Ten waters.
Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about that because gosh, all of our lives, since the early 90s, we've seen the CBS SEC game of the week and, da na 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 na. I mean, that's gone. Yeah. It's you're going to see Minnesota and Purdue.
Not me. I won't be watching that one. No.
I won't be watching.
They're going to put that one on Peacock.
Yeah. Ohio State, Michigan needs to be a primetime game. That'll help out college football. Penn State will be more of a national spotlighted team, so that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So and then Southern Cal, UCLA coming in too. That's a whole different ball of worms there for that. But I think the SEC counters and just kind of becomes synonymous with ESPN. I agree with you about game day. Are they going to? What's going to happen with that? Are they still going to go to places that other networks have? Those are all interesting dynamics with this whole thing. Brad, the coaches poll came out yesterday, and congratulations because that thing came out, man, and all of a sudden it was 10 minutes later. You had an article up about it, and that really helped me out.
Because we had some inside info there, yeah.
We were sitting there broadcasting. So, and I know this is a program you talk about a lot, and Phil and I were talking about it earlier because, my opinion of Dave Dorn's well documented. NC State at 13, and I know a lot of Wolfpack people and all that. That was one I kind of looked at and went, that's a little high. I know they got a really good team coming back, but I still thought over some other teams. Like I would take Mississippi State on a neutral field over if they were meeting in Atlanta. I'd take Mississippi State by 10. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong about the Wolfpack.
I'll take 10 points in the pack in Atlanta against Mississippi State.
All right.
This program, JC, it mirrors South Carolina a lot. Wolfpack fans are super passionate. 8-4, 9-3 seasons are big time in Raleigh. I think Dave Dorn thinks that he can kind of get into that upper tier now with the 10-11 win seasons based on what he has coming back. But 9 starters back defensively. I think that unit has a chance to be top 10 nationally in both scoring defense and total defense. Part of that does help that, they play in the ACC and don't have to play, top 15 type opponents every week. But Devin Leary is a guy that I've got at the top of the ACC as far as top returning quarterbacks. And, most of NC State's toughest games this year, come at Carter Finley Stadium. But they do play at Clemson early. And that's a game that, I've got as one of my top 10 most anticipated. I think the winner of that game is ultimately the ACC champ this year. And if I was an NC State fan right now, I would be cautiously optimistic as far as this season goes because as we saw last year, man, Mac Brown and the Heels had preseason top 10 hype, and then forgot how to block against Virginia Tech in that opening game.
Completely. Yeah, it's completely didn't block. Anybody else you think in the poll maybe higher or lower? I thought just kind of in general, a lot of Big 12 teams kind of skewed higher than some SEC teams, and I didn't know if I bought like I love Baylor. I love Dave Aranda. I think they're good. I know what they did to Ole Miss last year, the Sugar Bowl. Just don't know that they're top 10. What kind of trends did you notice that maybe you agreed with or didn't agree with?
Yeah, two of the more underrated teams. I think Kentucky, I want to say Wildcats were number 23. Kentucky's a game based on the schedule this season is pretty favorable by SEC standards. Obviously, they get South Carolina in Lexington. That's kind of been a house of horrors for the Gamecocks here the last, half decade. And, they have to play Georgia too. But that's a team that I think can win 10 games because Mark Stoops, he's recruited well in the trenches on both sides of the ball. UK plays that smash mouth style. They have a first-round quarterback, in my opinion, and Will Levis, who's a guy who's really kind of raising up draft boards this summer. And then, another team's Penn State. Penn State was not ranked. Nittany Lions were 5-0 last year, and they led Iowa 17-0 at halftime. And then they got, they lost, I think, 4 of their next 5 games, major injuries at quarterback. So Penn State's a team that I think right now is being undervalued a bit and certainly is going to be a contender in that Big Ten East.
Yeah, I watched most of the Outback Bowl last year, and that's why I kind of understand why people are so high on Arkansas. Penn State fought hard. I think they're really talented, and they recruit well up in Happy Valley for sure. James Franklin, a guy I've known for a long time. A lot of Gamecock fans don't really like James Franklin, but I've always kind of liked the guy. So hopefully they have a really good year. So we talked with Mike Bratton from that SEC podcast yesterday. He's really, really high, and this is getting back to the Gamecocks on. And by the way, it's interesting to hear the different thoughts. He's not as high on Kentucky. It was surprising to me. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It is high on Mississippi State. So that's the SEC for you, right? So he's pretty high on Devontae Reed, the transfer safety that Carolina's got coming in from Central Michigan, an all-MAC player. And it's kind of like a big picture thing here. So you have Reed, who I think is pretty good against the run. R.J. Roderick scares a lot of people, but he's back. I think the corners are better tacklers than maybe they once were a couple of years ago. I think 2 North Carolina kids, Sherrod Green and Mohamed Kaba, if that holds, and they look like they're running with the ones now. I don't know what's up with Brad Johnson at linebacker. I think this Carolina team has a shot to be better against the run this year, like much improved. And I think we're going to find out. But, what's your take on the run defense? Because to me, that's we talk about Rattler. We talk about the playmakers on offense. We talk about Marcus Satterfield to death. But the bottom line is, in the real ugly games this past year, this defense did not show up against the run.
Right.
It's particularly Clemson and A&M and some games like that. So what's your outlook on that side of the ball against the run?
A lot of guys looking kind of tired in the first half of games. And when a running back gets a 10 or 12-yard gain, I've sort of seen in recent years from this defense, defensive ends and interior guys just kind of having their hands on their hips. It's sort of a depleting play when a guy moves the chains on first down and then you have to, get after it again. But I think the run defense is going to be better than last season, And speaking with Zach Pickens last month, he said that this front seven for South Carolina can be top 3 in the SEC. Obviously, Bama and Georgia are probably the top 2. So Zach's very high on this group. He sees these guys more often than we do day to day. So I think, you mentioned too, JC, the secondary, some of the transfers in, obviously Cam Smith's probably a first cornerback off the board type guy in 2023. This secondary to me is going to come down to, can the front seven get a pass rush? Because we've seen in years past, the secondary is elite when, those edge guys and blitz and linebackers can get pressure on the quarterback. If there's no pressure on a few of these top-notch guys in the SEC, the secondary is going to be, having to hold guys too long. But I do think Clayton White sort of has the bodies and the depth back there to kind of do some interesting things. And that safety spot, let's face it, it hadn't been all that great at Carolina the last 5 or 6 seasons. So they really need some playmakers at that position, and I think having strong cornerback plays will certainly help.
Absolutely. And I think that they're recruiting a lot of good players. I think it's safety here coming up. Nick Emanware, there's a freshman kid from Irmo to keep an eye on this year back at safety. Brad, let you get back to your vacation in Myrtle, man. Certainly appreciate you joining us. I know this isn't going to be the last time that you're on with us here on the show. Great insight as always, and really looking forward to future meetings here with me and Phil on the show.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon, man.
Have a great day. All right, Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports on the McKellar Enterprises guest line. Meredith McKellar Taylor. So it's McKellarEnterprises.org to get your golf swing right. You need to get your golf swing right, folks. So, Phil, I promised a recruiting update, and I'm a man of my word. And I'm not going to I'm not pulling Mayor McCheese out and talking about him so much today, but I will show you that he remains right here. That's far superior to the Hamburglar.
Ever vigilant, Mayor McCheese.
So, South Carolina in-state, and we got some questions about that on the chat line and all that. There's a kid, Xavier McLeod, right? And McLeod is a 4-star defensive tackle from Camden. His recruitment publicly, and I say publicly and emphasize that, has appeared to be sort of all over the map. He's the number 25 defensive line prospect in America. 172nd overall, 4-star guy. If you look at the 24/7 Sports Composite in South Carolina, number 1 is Monroe Freeling, a kid from Mount Pleasant who's from Oregon. I don't understand. I mean, he's 8th in the. I don't get that. But anyway, he's number 1. He's leaving the state because he's no ties to the state. But then you look at it, Marquis Anderson, number 2, McLeod's number 3, and Montague Rames is number 4. And those are guys the Gamecocks sort of, zeroed in on. There's not another guy in state that they offered that they didn't get outside of DJ Geth, who went to North Carolina. He's a North Carolina legacy, that kind of thing. So you're looking at batting a high percentage if you get McLeod. I think right now South Carolina is in really good shape. So that's my update on him.
Well, traditionally, JC, how well does South Carolina pull out of Camden? Is that
Ooh, that's a great question. Kind of like Dorman, right? And look, they've got a walk-on safety from Camden, Joseph Burns. Camden's a pretty big Gamecock area, but for whatever reason, their kids at that school. I mean, you go back to Penn State in the 90s with Bobby Ingram. Who, by the way, now I think is he the OC at Wisconsin? He's the OC at Wisconsin. Bobby Ingram was from Camden, South Carolina, went to Penn State, had a great career. Kelvin Grant was a receiver, didn't really do much at Clemson, but that was one of those big 3-way battles between Georgia, Clemson, and Carolina. He ended up going to Clemson and surprising some people. Gamecocks thought they had him. Mo Fountain was a defensive end at Camden that went to Clemson. The worst one of them all in terms of blowing it was Vonnie Holiday, who ended up going to North Carolina and having a standout career and playing for Mac Brown the first time. The Gamecocks, that was one of those behind the scenes. We'll tell the story one day where the Brad Scott staff just kind of dropped the ball. Those guys are pretty good at recruiting at times, some of them, and then some of them just were awful. So that was one of those in-state losses, right? Mm-hmm. So the answer is not well. Not well. I don't know what happens when you get beyond Lugoff on I-20 going that way, but Carolina just hadn't had a lot of success. Now, Camden hasn't had the run on players like they did back in the day, and they've got a lot now. They got a defensive end that's plays with McLeod. It's about 6'6", 250. That's a high-level guy. They've got some defensive backs. They've kind of resurrected themselves talent-wise over there. But it's kind of like Norman. So, I think it's awfully good sometimes in recruiting or, even wins and losses wise, when you start doing things that your program doesn't normally do, I think that's a great sign. And Camden and Dorman have been two tough nuts to crack over the years. And it used to be that Bamberg, Earhart, and Fort Dorchester were tough nuts to crack for the Gamecocks, but Carolina's been getting a lot of kids out of Fort D lately, and when Bamberg has a kid, they have a good shot. So I think that's important, especially around the state, Phil, to turn the tide at some of these schools that you just sit there and bury your face in your hands and go, why can South Carolina not get a player from here?
Yeah, right down the road. Well, let's hope the earthquakes in Elgin here recently kind of shook some sense into them.
Yeah, like all this. Yeah, those are every day. I haven't been in town for one of those yet. I missed one by one day a couple of weeks ago. But man, oh man. So I think McLeod's an important guy just in terms of locking the state up. What you can do at Camden. I think he's got a lot. You got a lot of coaching to do with him. Because he's a lot, he's kind of raw and going to need to be coached up. But I do, another blue chip prospect from within the state, and you start looking at it, and man, oh man, that's kind of how anybody who's been successful around here has built it. And then you look at the good recruiting going on in other areas of the country for the Gamecocks, and I think there's a lot of good reason for optimism right now, Phil. With regards to that. And unfortunately, if the Gamecocks get him and Desmond Uzi Omololo or Izimolo, Desmond U. I put it in the class on 24/7 Sports on thebigspur.com. We have a class calculator. And by the way, even if you're not a member, you can sign up for $1 right now if you're not a member. But if you're not a member, you can still go to the site. Go to class calculator. It's under football recruiting at the top. And you can plug in the names of recruits, and it'll spit a number back out to you. So it can kind of tell you where your team's going to be ranked, once you get a guy. Unfortunately, I plugged these guys in. It's still Carolina would only be like 15th, which I'm like sitting there going, wow, So even if they get Desmond and even if they get Xavier. So that's kind of amazing to me as far as the formula, but the formula sometimes isn't that kind to the Gamecocks these days. Another recruiting note, Vakari Swain. I don't know if Hales put it out or dropped it yet or not. I was supposed to drop maybe a crystal ball. He's the corner receiver from Carrollton. Carrollton's sort of a black hole, kind of like Camden. I don't know what it is about I-20, right? But if you got Swain, that's another kid from that area. Like it's I-20 west of Atlanta toward Birmingham, Carrollton, Villa Rica, Cedartown, all that's out that way. Carolina's just not even been in on very many guys, and there's good football out there. So I think that'd be another good pickup. Vakari Swain can fly, dude.
Well, where do you think the staff is thinking for him? Like corner, we're going to keep him at receiver, or what are their plans?
From what I hear, they like him as a corner, and corner is a need. But I also think if all things were equal, the kid would like to play receiver. Mississippi State's almost full there, so they're kind of in a holding pattern. I thought he was going to Starkville to play offense, and it may still happen. But right now, I think Carolina's still looking good with him too, and that would be a good deal. All right, thanks to everybody who chimed in on the chat line, all that good stuff. Well, we appreciate it, and want to tell everybody where they can stream this show.
That's right. Streaming every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 on Facebook page Inside the Gamecocks, the Twitter account at the Big Spur Pod on Twitter, and YouTube is the Big Spur page. Please like, subscribe, follow, give us all your thumbs up and hearts. We need every bit. Also on our Instagram account, we will not be streaming, may or may not, still looking at that, at Inside the Gamecocks on IG.
Yeah, we have little highlights and stuff there, and it's a real quick and easy follow on Instagram. You can also follow at the Big Spur 247 on Insta for some of our stuff. Tomorrow we'll have Jamie Bradford from the JB and Goldwater show, unless something crazy happens, but I confirmed it with him today. Friday, Meredith Taylor will join us to talk Gamecocks and golf. Looking forward to that. I'm going to have to pick Phil's brain about golf because I don't want to, say anything stupid. So when we talk off with Merritttville, you're going to have to help me along with that. But looking forward to all of that. Thanks to the Bergeson team at Remax at the Lake for sponsoring the second half of the show, and to all of our sponsors out there. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all of our listeners. We've had big numbers for this. Like the numbers, I thought they would take a dip for a little bit, but they haven't. We get thousands on the pod version. You can always get that on Apple, iTunes, Spotify. It goes up about 30 minutes after the show. You can re-listen on YouTube if you'd like, and then stream it where Phil told you could do. All right, for Phil Mullinax, this is JC Sherbert. This has been Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, Jamie Bradford, maybe another surprise or two, as always, right here on the Inside the Gamecocks show.